WXME, AM 780, Monticello, Holton, Presque Isle.
Good morning, Aroostook County. Coming to you live on the Constitutional Radio Network, the Conscience of Maine. We're going to jump right into it. Steve Martin is on the line. Dan McGonigal will be on with us at 8:30. So, Steve, jump in there. We got some huge stuff going on here with this insanity that's being flown in on an airplane. Ebola!
Well, in our case, brought in a black SUV from New Jersey. This nurse who's being brought to Fort Kent by the name of Hickox, Casey, K-A-C-I, Hickox, H-I-C-K-O-X, came up, I guess, last night or this morning by black SUVs, escorted probably by state police, etc., to Fort Kent. She's listed variously in various news articles as being 29 years old, 31 years old, or 33 years old, so you take your pick on that.
Where'd she fly into? I was told she
flew into Newark and was quarantined by Governor Christie, who's been all pal-pally with LePage lately, by the way, and was quarantined there for a couple of days and was very upset, hired her, a good friend of hers, apparently this Norman Siegel, an ACLU lawyer who actually was the director of the New York branch of the ACLU for several years, to represent her in a suit against, I don't know who she's suing, probably the airport and Governor Christie and everybody else. But she was in quarantine there in New Jersey for a couple of days, didn't like the fact she was in a tent, I guess, without heat. I mean, there's some things there she could certainly be upset about. But now she's coming home to Fort Kent, and we have this article in the New York Daily News quoting the town manager in Fort Kent, town manager Don Guimont, saying that people just need to calm down and respect the situation she is in. She just wants to come home, and she has every right to come home. Well, let's ask town manager Don Guimont when we can get him on the phone later today. Fort Kent isn't her home there, Donnie. Okay? She has no connection to Aroostook County that I can find anywhere.
Well, when did she make Fort Kent her home?
Well, it appears it would have been about a year or so ago, but there's no clear information on that. She is apparently a resident, or at least grew up in Cleveland, Texas, all right, near Dallas. She attended the University of Texas at Austin, or was it Austin or Arlington? One of those, UTA, whatever UTA is. And then she went on to Johns Hopkins, which, of course, is the Rockefeller School for Medicine. How all the pharmaceuticals are forced on us. And then she went over to West Africa with Doctors Without Borders, which is, of course, a left-wing, communist-linked organization that does some good work, but still very, very, very left-wing.
Well,
and
one of the things, somebody raised the question, I wonder how she would have felt had she been quarantined in West Africa.
Yeah, she doesn't bring it back. Yeah, she's written an article. She's written some stuff about being quarantined here and how unfair it is and how concerned she is about people coming back. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. That's a secondary issue, her concerns about that. What is of concern to us here in Aroostook County is this woman is being forced on us here in northern Maine, even though she has no apparent real connection to northern Maine, and we need to be asking why. Now, here's the other strange thing, Jack. Well, there's several. The boyfriend that she supposedly lives with, a 39-year-old guy named Wilbur, W-I-L-B-U-R, and Ted Wilbur. There's no Wilbur in Aroostook County either. Okay, so he has, obviously, if you pick up the phone book, no Wilburs in Aroostook County. He is apparently, or so we're told, just recently moved to Fort Kent, okay, to attend his senior year as a medical student at UMFK. First of all, I didn't even know you could transfer your senior year. Second of all, who transfers to UMFK for their senior year in medicine? I mean, it's just, and apparently she's going to be quarantined at his house, which means he can't go to classes. So a lot of this just is very, very, very odd, Jack. We need to find out why these people are being forced on northern Maine. Who exactly are they? Why are we being told that Fort Kent is their home when it obviously isn't?
Apparently, he also is an assistant instructor or some kind of an instructor at some other facility here in the county. Apparently, he's instructing maybe a CNA program or something.
Okay, well, who's bringing these people here? I mean, this is just too bizarre. Now, this woman, Casey Hickox, apparently wants to be considered a Fort Kent native. And from everything I'm reading online about her, you can hardly find anything else about her other than, of course, this situation with her quarantine. But she does nothing to dispel the notion that she's from Aroostook County. She doesn't say, "Oh yeah, no, by the way, I'm really from Cleveland, Texas." What northern Maine Fort Kent girl, when she has need of a lawyer, immediately calls a New York high-level attorney from the ACLU? I mean, she's obviously not connected to Fort Kent. You can't Google anything about her having any connections to the county. She didn't play soccer at some high school. She didn't get an award, for her whole history prior to this whole Ebola thing is apparently outside of Maine. So why is this all of a sudden her home, and why does she have to be brought here? I don't know. It's just bizarre. Here's the worst thing about the whole thing, though, Jack. In all the articles you can find online about her, it never discusses the fact that she has close links to the CDC. Okay? I found a site called Yatedo, Yatedo. It's like LinkedIn, but it's for French people. It's a French website, yatedo.fr. I found her profile there. Oh, by the way, her LinkedIn profile has been deleted. You can make what you will of that. But this little profile talks about her. It says, new recruit, Epidemic Intelligence Service Fellow for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It says, this is her writing, I will start my EIS, which is Epidemic Intelligence Service, assignment in July of 2012. I will be based in Southern Nevada Health District of Las Vegas. The EIS is a 2-year fellowship in applied epidemiology with the U.S. Center for Disease Control. Instruction focuses include applied epidemiology, biostatistics, public health surveillance, scientific writing.
Where do they get these terms?
And working with the media. Okay? So she served a 2-year fellowship with the CDC with that descriptor and is now at the center of the Ebola discussion today and is being forced on northern Maine. So, I don't know
the
what
word
all to
you
make
used
of it,
at
Jack.
the beginning was the most appropriate. It's pretty bizarre.
It is bizarre beyond belief. Now, here's to play devil's advocate for a minute. Maybe, just maybe, her boyfriend did get some position here in northern Maine, and there's nothing suspicious about it, and she wants to come home and live with him and serve out her quarantine in his house so he can be on the street. Because, again, he cannot have any contact with her if he's going to attend classes at UMFK. And presumably he wouldn't be able to do that teaching assignment either. Maybe it's all perfectly innocent, but there's a lot of smoke here, Jack, and it's just very odd. So I thought I'd call and bring that up. You might want to contact, when 9 o'clock comes around, contact the town manager, since he's being quoted in the New York Daily News, and ask this Mr. Guimont, if there is any further connection. Does she really have any connection to Fort Kent?
Yeah, how long he's known her?
Yeah, how long has he known her?
He's a
Sounds
small
like
town.
he knows her. Yeah, not a big town. And this Theodore Wilbur, who's a nursing student at the University of Maine campus in Fort Kent, has only been there a month.
Well, the devil's advocate side of that, he could have, because they are seemingly connected to CDC and the Obama administration, they could easily be getting their $100,000 school loans erased by volunteering in northern Maine.
Yeah, could be.
Well, there's obviously some connections there. This whole you don't get the quick ride home in the black SUV.
Mm-hmm.
If I had Ebola, they certainly wouldn't be driving me home. They'd be burying me.
Right. And one final thing, and then I'll let you go, Jack. There's an article at the number 2, clicktohouston.com. And the title of the article, you can Google it and find it this way, is Cleveland High School Scene of Active Shooter Drill. Okay, we're talking about her real hometown now, Cleveland, Texas. And there's a credit to her in that article. I don't understand what the credit is about, but if you go to the link and check it out, it says credit to Casey Hickox. And this article is very strange. The police chief said his goal was to have the people feel the chaos.
Wow.
Cleveland, Texas. This was an active shooter drill. It was done March 15th, 2013. And apparently what would have been her high school in Texas. So I'll just leave it at that. That's all I could scrape up so far this morning. But please, everyone, keep an eye on this situation. If we find out all of a sudden that people are getting sick in Fort Kent, we're going to have to ask a lot more tough questions, Jack.
Well, we might as well just go into just a little bit of what can happen here when nothing happens. There's the possibility here of chaos over nothing. We could end up with our entire medical facilities, our entire medical establishment completely paralyzed with gridlock with 3 people with a fever.
Well, that's also interesting because now that you brought that part of it up, Northern Maine Medical Center in Fort Kent claims that they're all set to handle Ebola.
Not true. Not true. Impossible. Impossible.
I was going to say, that is impossible. And why would they even say that? And if it's true, Jack, that's even more disturbing. That means somebody up there knew they had to be ready for this situation. You see what I'm saying?
That's the problem.
All right, so there's some real weird stuff going on here this morning. All right, I'll let you go, buddy. I know you got another guest there, but I wanted to start off with that.
Well, Dan's not on yet. We can keep right on rolling here because this is important. You're welcome to stay with me if you care to.
Sure. All right.
Let's just run down the potential story here. Now, this person arrives yesterday in Fort Kent, self-quarantines. Now, hey, I got news for you. Self-quarantine is the way to go. If there's anything going on, don't even come to my house because we will be self-quarantined. Don't even think about showing up. It ain't going to happen. But, so she's in Fort Kent. Now, just imagine, just in case, we got 3 kids in 2 days. Let's see, this is Tuesday. So Thursday morning, 3 kids at Fort Kent High School have fevers, go to the emergency room. Somebody says, boy, this could be Ebola. Holy Christmas. Mrs. Boucher and Mrs. Gagne, who are in housekeeping, take one look at this and go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to work tomorrow. So Friday morning, the people that clean the rooms don't show up. Saturday morning, there's 10 people in the emergency room with fevers because there's a flu going around. They can't put anybody in the rooms. Nobody showed up to change the beds, clean the floors, especially if they're going on the Ebola protocol. Suddenly, this little thing with 3 people in the emergency room at Fort Kent emergency room turns into the hospital is essentially incapacitated because there's nobody to follow the protocol and clean up the beds and get the room ready. Next thing you know, they're sending them to Caribou. How long does it take before the people in Caribou go, whoop, wait a minute. How long is it before the emergency room doc says, you know what? I think I'm going to have a sick day today. It doesn't take much at all to imagine how quickly the entire system can crumble just because a few people who rightly are concerned, they've been taught to be afraid, just a few people just can't show up to work to clean the room. How quickly does that escalate into a complete breakdown of the entire medical system. Interesting concept.
There was a doctor that had made a blog post about that same thing, saying that's his greatest fear is not the Ebola, but the reaction to it and how it could literally, shut down America.
Yeah. And you can see how quickly that could happen. I mean, you can see how easily and how logically that could happen. If you're low man on the totem pole at the Fort Kent Hospital housekeeping department, you take one look at this and go, you know what? I'm afraid. Whether they're justified or not is immaterial. They've been listening to the ABC News. They are justifiably intimidated by the possibility that the room they're going to have to clean has been contaminated by somebody with Ebola. So they don't come to work Friday morning. Why would they? They're getting paid $9 an hour to take a chance on getting the dreaded Ebola virus. It would take nothing, absolutely nothing, as we see. This is terrorism 101, isn't it, Steve?
It sure is.
Create fear going. Keep the fear going. And what happens? What happens from that?
Feel the chaos. Feel the chaos.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting one for you. The Breitbart has an article up this morning talking about this whole thing, and it says, and here's just one little sentence or two. It says, if there was any doubt that this administration is not setting the right priorities, this can be erased by a source who has informed us of a secret plan to bring Ebola-infected non-citizens into the United States. The plan is both illegal and dangerous, the source says. Even so, the administration is pressing ahead with plans to admit Ebola-infected non-citizens into the U.S. for treatment. The general idea is to bring these Ebola victims into the U.S. within the first few days of a diagnosis. As is so often the case, President Obama has decided not to inform Congress, the source has told us.
And as we heard last week, apparently as recently as 9 days ago, there were technically only 19 beds, 19
right.
beds, not 19
right.
hospitals,
right.
19 beds in the entire country ready, able, and
equipped
set up
to handle a level 4 biohazard. That's right. That's right. 19 beds in the entire country. And I guarantee you, one of them is not in Fort Kent.
Yeah, I'll guarantee you one of those is not in Fort Kent. You got that right. How crazy. Yeah. How crazy. So, I don't know. It just gets crazier by the minute. Then you add to that the time frame here. We're coming up in a few days on Election Day, where people from every walk of life will be gathering in places like town halls and school gymnasiums and civic centers in mass numbers to be casting their vote for whichever criminal's going to go to D.C. again. Yeah. I wonder if maybe we shouldn't allow those people to intermingle. It's kind of dangerous with all the Ebola virus going around.
Well, the present administration, the criminals in charge at the moment, have a real problem here because they were hyping the Ebola crisis for the first couple of weeks back in August, and then they realized, well, maybe we shouldn't hype this so much because if this is a real problem heading into the election, people will blame the Democrats for the spread and we'll lose seats. So now the last couple of weeks it's been kind of hushed a little bit, but news is forcing itself on them now, I think, because they're falling behind the attempt to keep the lid on this thing. But it's very interesting. Bangor, Maine is also heavily involved. The first case that was brought here, that Brantley, Dr. Brantley, landed in Bangor on his Phoenix Air flight. People need to check into who this Phoenix Air is, too, by the way. That's a very interesting little airline that is very shadowy. It seems to fly all these Ebola patients back and forth. But people deplaned. They deplaned in Bangor. the crew. That was, when was that, back in July or August? And we've never heard much more about that, so it wouldn't surprise me if we start hearing, people are getting sick in Bangor, too.
Well, they did the same thing a couple days ago. What was it? Friday, there was the CDC Ebola plane flew from Hickox over and landed and refueled in Bangor.
Yep.
They were only on the ground 30 minutes, but we don't know if anybody got off.
No, it was reported that they did get off that first time with Dr. Brantley.
Right.
So, maybe they've smartened up since then, but holy cow. They're trying to bring rural Maine into it, I think, Jack, for a reason. I think this is all showboating to say, hey, it's not just a big city problem. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yep.
The plane. Look out for the plane. Anyway, Dan's on. Steve, let's stay in touch. We'll make sure we do some follow-up on this.
All right. See you later.
Thanks, buddy. Take care. Oh, what a day. What a day. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Jack.
The world has gone completely nuts. Stop it. I want to get off.
Well, this Ebola stuff, that all falls under constitutional security. And that if we were under proper constitutional operations, this would be nothing. Really, nothing but a little blip. You know?
How's that work?
Well, the body of the people would all be part of command structures, and something like an invasion of a disease, which does fall. If you look under Webster's 1828, the definition of invasion, a disease is part of the definition, and so that's obviously that could be included in the constitutional.
What you're basically saying is there is a process and a procedure set up, and if we all knew our place in that process and procedure, our proper place that we are supposed to be occupying, then there wouldn't be any question about what was going on. The chain of command would be very distinct, and we would all have the right information and have the right tools and know what to do next.
We'd be all trained, equipped, the whole 9 yards.
Not for Ebola, but to be able to manage a crisis.
Well, any emergency, any kind of emergency where there's security required, it'd be all. That'd be modern. The certain sections of the people in the command structure would be. They may have a health and safety committee or just a health committee underneath, and certain people would be trained to the modern technology of handling stuff like this.
And we would have a communications network so that if I was in a situation that I needed help, I would know who to go to, and we would communicate, and we would allay the fear, which is the problem. They do not want to allay the fear. Okay, let's back up a minute. My guest is Daniel McGonigal, and he was on last week. He just kind of popped in, and we had a little conversation. But Dan has been going around New England teaching how to properly set up the constitutional state militia, not the National Guard, totally different than the National Guard, and committees of safety and the process for working together. This whole idea of working together, folks, we better learn how to work together. Otherwise, we're going to be very isolated. So, Dan, give us just a quick little bit of background. How the heck did you get into this? I kind of fell into it 30 years ago listening to Chuck Colson, or Chuck Missler. How the heck did you get into go from where you were to being the teacher on constitutional militia?
Well, I heard a speech in an anniversary of the Boston Tea Party. There was an organized event at Faneuil Hall in Boston, and one of the keynote speakers was a fellow named Dr. Edwin Vieira Jr. And earlier in his career, he had written Pieces of Eight, 1,700-page book on constitutional money. And in 2005, he started writing short commentaries 3 years after the creation of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. He started writing short commentaries on newswithviews.com, and that website has many authors and writers of short commentaries. And but the speech, he talked about the constitutional money. He talked about constitutional security, constitutional enforcement, and a common phrase that all falls under is, it goes back hundreds of years. This phrase is called the powers of the purse and the power of the purse and the power of the sword. And
that's basically all there is.
So the light bulbs just started going off. I'm sitting in the audience listening to him talk, and light bulbs just started going off in my head, and I was getting everything that he said. And a year after that, I I volunteered for about 6 months leading a citizen effort up at the Massachusetts State House to fight a public health emergency bill that had passed the state Senate unanimous, 36-0. And we ended up defeating that in the House, the other chamber in the legislature, and amazingly, after it had passed the Senate at that kind of a vote, and the boil just died in conference committee because the House version was so different from the Senate version. And then after that, I decided to jump back on what Dr. Vieira was working with, and I got together with a fella named Walter Reddy in Connecticut. He had organized an event on Lexington Green in Massachusetts on April 19th, and that was where the Oath Keepers organization say they were founded at that event on that day. And but Walter had a website called Committees of Safety, committeesofsafety.org, and he had been working with Dr. Vieira. And Walter had organized that event at Faneuil Hall in 2008. Jack McManus, president of JBS, Dr. Vieira, Rand Paul, who wasn't a U.S. Senator yet, he spoke. The Patriot pastor Garrett Lear, Dr. Catherine Albrecht. We had a slew of great speakers, and but the guy that impressed me the most was Vieira. So I started getting into his stuff, and then it just went from there. After I was done at the Mass State House, basically in 2010, I'm being retired. I've been working on this Power of the Sword full time. Walter Reddy now, he's focused on the power of the purse. And he gave me the website, committeesofsafety.org, which is back under reconstruction. And also I have committees of correspondence.org. I also have that website under construction.
Oh, and, good.
Yeah,
these are going to be resources? These will be just resource websites so we can go and get good information?
Right, information, a source of information, and a source of how to organize things, how to organize activities, and then perform the activities, and then follow up, how to publish official reports, how to send official communications. Because since we're not organized as the militia structure like we are supposed to be, this is another way for the people to get organized officially. And the people up in St. Agathe, when I spoke up there, they were very interested in the committees of safety idea, because they said they don't have, in that area, they don't have local police departments, and the sheriff, I was told, was 60 miles away. Although one guy at the meetings, at the speaking engagements, at another speaking engagement, I think it was in either Holton or Presque Isle, said that there were 2 sheriff's deputies that live up there. But I said, my response was, well, that's only 2 guys. What if you have a full-blown emergency and you need the whole community organized? So they're very interested in this committee of the safety thing, and they were talking to me about having problems getting certain items on the town meeting docket. And I want to follow up with those guys, because the history of New England, the selectmen could call a town meeting, and the people could call a town meeting. It wasn't just only the selectmen. If the people en masse got together and said, we need to have a town meeting for this certain thing, they had it. The selectmen couldn't deprive the people of having a meeting and having an item on the docket. But so I want to find out more about what's going on with the town meeting up there.
Well, that's the core here in Maine. It's the way to do it is through our town meetings. We have a great process to be able to do that. Massachusetts used to have this. Does Massachusetts still do that same do it the same way? They have town meetings.
The towns do. The cities have their city council meetings. In the cities.
Yeah.
And some of the towns elect people in town. They call them town meeting members. And they, on certain things, only the town meeting members are allowed to vote on items.
Yeah.
And then there's smaller towns where everybody gets to vote. So, those are the town meeting is still alive and well down here. So
good. It doesn't. I lived on the Cape for many years, and I wish I had been more active at the time.
Right.
It's just too hard. Okay, get into a little bit of the committees of safety. That seems to be one of the ways that committee of safety, committee of communication, whichever, we need to be able to. We need to know each other. We need to be loosely connected. I'm not a joiner. I don't want anything really too well organized, because the organizational structure will also get us killed.
How do you mean?
Well, if we have an official structure that
right.
says this guy's the local senior person in charge of this committee of safety, and
right.
his three assistants are Fred, Jim, and Jill, and then their people are Donnie, Fred, Susan, and listing names and addresses and all that kind of stuff. All the federales have to do when martial law is put into effect is just go right down and arrest all the people of committees of safety that are the leaders, and then we're back to the dark ages again. And I don't put anything past them. We are being run, directed, governed, if you will, by evil people. And I just wouldn't put anything past them.
Well, some things would depend on what kind of sheriff you have. You have a good sheriff or a bad sheriff. And,
which is the biggest. That's it. You're right. That's where you start. And right now we got, let's see, 14 out of 16 not so good. 3 or 4 out of 16 terrible, useless, dangerous, who want their sheriff's department militarized, who want all of their duties to be shared with the federal and the state, so they don't have to do anything except take care of the jails. So,
right.
Yeah,
right. I think
everything.
So the Maine Sheriff's Association, I'm assuming they're not a member of Sheriff Mack's group, CSPOA.
Oh no, there's one sheriff that I know of that has actually read it and agrees, but he still won't sign it.
Yeah, in all of New England, there's only one sheriff from New Hampshire that's part of that.
Yeah.
And but there are 18 in the country. There are 18 state sheriff's associations that are part of it, and there are close to 500 individuals.
Well, so that's pretty good. There's 3,300 or 3,400 sheriffs.
Right. They have about 500. individuals out of that number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, 15, between 15 and 20% or something like that.
No. Those are 500 individuals.
Sheriffs.
There are 32 or 3,400 sheriffs.
Counties. Yeah. Right.
Right. But that means that in each county there are multiple deputy sheriffs, and those 500 are not just the sheriffs. Those 500 are
they include others. Oh, okay.
Include others. So we don't have a very good preponderance of sheriffs that have really understood what's going on here.
Well, what you described earlier would be an emergency type scenario, and being that we the people are the supreme constitutional authority.
Except that they ignore it at every turn.
Well, yeah, part of the purpose that I will be pursuing the committees of correspondence is to reassert officially in official documents, reassert the rights, duties, and powers, and also you compile a list of grievances. But I think the list of grievances could turn into a whole book, which I don't know if you want to get that big with an official document. We can maybe outline it. But
well, we kind of wrote that document in 2009. It's called the Articles of Freedom. Right.
But the committees of safety, if you got a committee, if you petitioned, the people got a petition, and they were able to get the item on a town meeting, and they were successfully voted to form, they resolved to form a committee of safety. Then there would be a way. There would be a way to, in the emergency scenario that you described, there would be a way to deter that. In other words, what you call the federales. There would be a way to deter that where the whole community could be called forth, or just volunteers. Volunteers could be asked to participate and be ready to be called forth in some kind of an emergency. Even, beyond just official members of the committee itself.
Okay.
So
that shouldn't be. Well, that shouldn't be hard to do in many of our small communities here, because there's only so many people that participate anyway. So we get this petition onto the selectmen's meeting, which puts it, and we requested it go on to the full town meeting. The town votes on it, however many show up, and we form a committee of safety.
Right.
Okay.
Obviously, you invite any deputy sheriffs that are in town. You obviously invite them, and a caveat that I would make: people that were elected to an official committee of safety, I would put down as one of the requirements that they take an oath. If you're going to be a committee member, you're going to have to take an oath. If you're a veteran, you've already taken an oath, but you can take it again. But that could be a requirement that could prevent un-American types from getting on the committee or infiltration. And if somebody, because of the oath, if somebody during their tenure or tenure as a member of the committee, if they did anything that violated their oath, like promoting something unconstitutional, an unconstitutional action, they could be removed. You could write it into the bylaws or instructions or whatever that they could be removed from the committee. So it would be similar to, not quite militia, but it would be similar to the duty requirements. Take an oath. You have certain rules you have to abide by. The Constitution, Maine and U.S. are being taken an oath to, and if you can maintain adherence to the oath, then that would be going a long way.
Well, we know what happens when you when you accuse legislators of being oath breakers, they get the press to call you a known domestic terrorist.
Right. Well, yeah, we can address that. I would also recommend forming a committee of correspondence. Also, you can address all those kinds of communications could be addressed by a committee of correspondence to rebut that and really rebut it. Take the most spiritual high ground, take the constitutional high ground, and they can't knock you off. They can. The enemies of America have a habit of, if they have no argument, they resort to name calling. So let them resort to name calling. But we have to start somewhere, and the local grassroots level is the good place to start.
Well,
there's obviously going to be name calling. If this thing gets off the ground, which it needs to, it's obviously going to be name calling going on from, people are going to be reading from from talking points that they get from higher up. And
we've been poking the dragon in the eye for the last number of years here,
right,
and
right.
we've stirred up quite a hornet's nest, and it's gotten fairly serious. It's not a joking matter when you have multiple media outlets, including some of the upper echelon elected representatives, calling people out by name as domestic terrorists.
Right. Well, if you form an official committee of correspondence and you rebut all that in official documents, official letters, whatever is necessary.
Well, when you say official, how does it become official when you're dealing with
like talking about, you get a petition. If the selectmen are 3-2 to not put something on the docket, and you're not able to get it removed, you're not able to get a good selectman in there, so you have a 3-2 advantage, and you can get things on the docket. You go to the petition process, the referenda. I came across a document. It goes back to the 1600s, the way they were doing the town meetings, and they were doing referenda. The people were doing referenda back then, and but you would form an official committee of correspondence, just like the same process you'd attempt to form a committee of safety. Same way, make an official committee. The precedent is Samuel Adams, Boston Committee of Correspondence, 1772. The Committee of Safety has a couple of precedents. 1689. They took over after King James was deposed in England and William and Mary were put in. They threw out in Boston, which was at that time there was one guy who was a crown appointed. He was head of what was called the Dominion of New England. And in Boston, where the power structure was, they arrested him and threw all his henchmen in jail on Castle Island. And a couple days later, they formed what they called a Council of Safety, and it was a temporary government structure until 1691. A couple of years later, when William and Mary gave New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, they gave them all new charters. And then I mentioned in my presentations before, in 1774, the people themselves, unarmed, marched in formation to every county courthouse in Massachusetts and took them over in the summer and fall of 1774. The only British control was in downtown Boston, where the British Army occupied, and then the Navy occupied the harbor with the Boston Port Act. It was closed to trade. But the Mass Provincial Congress, which at that time included Maine, was formed, in the fall of 1774, 2 weeks after formation, they formed a committee of safety. And with the committee of safety, duties were to control the county and local militia when they needed to be called forth. So you got two historical precedents on the committee of safety. The committees of safety and committees of correspondence were formed throughout the 13 colonies at all levels: local level, county level, provincial level, colonial level, provincial level. It was throughout, top to bottom, across the land, up and down the East Coast. So you got precedents all over the place, and you got the precedent of the people themselves being able to call a town meeting if the selectmen won't do it. So this is information that we want to share with the people up there.
Well,
and I want to help you guys out up there, because I can't do much. Massachusetts is very tough right now to do anything.
Well, every place is tough, and it's not just because of the local control. It's not the selectmen in the town. I look at some of the towns, the small towns that I'm familiar with, and I know some of the selectmen in different towns. It's not necessarily that they're bad people, but you just can't get people to get involved. That's the real problem. We the people are in charge, but we the people are asleep. We the people can't miss the next rerun of The Voice. Come on,
right?
That's the problem. It's not going to happen top down if the people, as you say, when they marched and took over all the county courthouses in Massachusetts, they marched. They did it. The people got off their butts because they didn't have a television to sit in front of and be mesmerized by and brainwashed. And they got out and did something. Here, how do we get people to do that? I mean, our country has been taken over. Our state has been taken over. You talk about taking an oath to protect and defend. I took an oath a couple of times, and there's no expiration date on that oath, my friend.
Right. Well, I'll try. I'm gonna in the committees of safety and committees of correspondence websites, I'm gonna have a ton of information, and a lot of it's already there, even though it's not available as of yet. But a lot of it's already been put together and ready to go. The committees of safety.org website already was up and running years ago, and so basically I'll be redoing
refurbishing that a little bit. Well,
refurbishing it, reissuing it, so to speak.
Well, we have a set up, we the people of Maine.org website that maybe we can link together and get some of the information back and forth on those two, because we organized this We the People of Maine nonprofit so that we could have a structure available for people to work from. And our purpose is not necessarily only for the committees of safety type process, but to get people involved to be able to examine bills that are coming up in the legislature in Maine. So if we can, we got to get people engaged. Get people engaged. All of our good effort is total waste.
Right. Well, there won't be a lack of information. So it's a matter of people just reading and encouraging people to read. A lot of people know there's something wrong, know something needs to be done, but they don't know what to do.
I keep saying exactly the same thing, but then you tell them what to do, and they don't want to do that, because that actually requires effort. That actually requires that they may experience a little bit of discomfort when they have to say something to someone that they don't want to say. We've got this peace and safety and this comfort zone really out of balance. People need to get out of their comfort zone if we're ever going to fix this. If anybody thinks that the comfort zone is going to continue as the march to tyranny progresses, you're sadly mistaken.
Right. Walter Reddy makes a good point when he says he encourages people to lead with the purse or the money issue.
Okay, how do you do that? Stop paying taxes. Stop funding your own demise. Why would you give somebody money to build a gallows to hang you with? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you give them money to build a road when they take it and spend $1.5 million per Tomahawk to bomb the country someplace over in the Middle East, but we leave our border wide open? Wait a minute. What are you going to do, folks? You're going to support this kind of insanity, or you're going to take a stand someplace, any place? When are you going to draw a line in the sand? When are you going to say, I will not comply on an individual basis and mean it? When are you going to do it? I've done it, and by golly, yeah, there is a price to be paid. And the price really sucks, let me tell you.
Right. Well, it's like when a candidate runs for office, he has to have a good ground game, a good grassroots organization. Well, it's the same thing with anything. With what we're talking about is politics, and it may come to people not wanting to get involved until they really, really get hurt real bad, like a major stock market crash worse than 29. Some people won't wake up. It's guaranteed that some people won't wake up till a major event like that.
Most of these people are not going to wake up until there's blue helmets walking up their sidewalk. Right,
but in the meantime, we can try to build we have to start somewhere. To me, the 4 speaking engagements, I was encouraged at the 4 speaking engagements that I went to up there.
Great.
And I had some good feedback, and if everyone that was at that meeting had 3 or 4 or 5 friends or family members, and then you just multiply up that way. Start somewhere, It's just.
That's right. That's right. You got to build someplace, but we got to build fast, people. We got to be spreading the word. And this is not a joke. This is not because we got nothing better to do. I got lots of better things to do than sit here in the drone zone and hope the blooming incoming doesn't make it. I got better things to do. Dan's got better things to do. Hal Shurtleff could certainly find better things to do. He could spend more time at Camp Constitution. Steve doesn't need to be doing. He's a football coach. He'd love to be just doing football 24/7. Right. We got plenty of better things to do. But if we don't get involved and start working together, it's not going to matter. You're going to be doing everything you can just to survive. Just basic survival will be all you'll be able to do. So let's get together. Let's stop this nightmare before it turns into absolute total chaos, tyranny, social breakdown. We need to work together. We were trying to do that. We thought we had Governor LePage working with us. He just doesn't quite get it on a couple levels. Give him kudos. I'm not knocking him necessarily, but we got to get some people involved that have a clue how bad this could get, how quickly, and we got to put a stop to it. If you're going to do something, you need to contact Dan or myself or Phil or Steve or Gary or Wayne. We have an organization. We have organizations in place. There's people all over the state that are willing to bear the load, that are willing to step out and do the leadership thing and work their tails off to do it. But it's just stupid to do this if the people that it's supposed to be, we the people, aren't we the people. It's we the 17 individuals that are working their butts off, and the rest of the we the people are watching The Voice. It's not going to work.
Right. Well, this is America, and let's reassert what America is, really, in truth, and according to its founding. And we need to return to that. And so we're gonna state our case. We're gonna put it in public documents, and we're gonna take the moral, spiritual, and constitutional high ground. Every person and every American is supposed to have rights, duties, and powers. Well, we're gonna state the claim. We're gonna state it, and we're gonna stand on it. And if you stand on that, they can't knock you off.
Okay, people. How do we get?
You're on New England Granite. Yeah. Go ahead.
Give out some contact information. They already have my contact information, and if you're going to get involved here, folks, if you think maybe we ought to be a little more active as we the people, give Dan a call or contact him via his email. He's going to give it to you right now. Let's get started, for goodness sakes. We've only been at it for 5 years. Go ahead, Dan.
On Facebook, for those on Facebook, it's Daniel Vincent McGonigle III. And it's McGonigle. My email is P as in Patrick, H as in Henry, Give Me Liberty 1775 at yahoo.com.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
PH Give Me Liberty 1775 at Yahoo. That's my email. I don't know if I want to give up
the two websites that will be up and running soon.
Committees, plural, of correspondence.org and committees, plural, of safety.org.
Okay.
I recommend News with Edwin Vieira's column on newswithviews.com. I have a blog, enforceourconstitution.com. So there's tons of information out there, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with people.
Good. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate what you're doing. It's a lot of work for sometimes not much of a pat on the back.
Well, I'm looking forward to the future.
Yep.
I'm confident to a certain extent. I'm confident. A lot of people, a lot of pessimistic people, have already permanently moved down to Central America or South America to live. But I'm confident in the positive for the future.
Well, this is my country. I'm taking it back. That's supposed to be our idea. This is my republic. We're supposed to be restoring the republic. It's been stolen from us. What are you people as individuals going to do? Not what are you going to read on Facebook. What are you going to do? When are you going to actually physically get involved? When are you going to actually financially get involved? It takes money to do this. Dan travels all over the place. We run this radio show. I'm up and down the blooming state with the Constitution Coalition. This stuff eats up money. If you can't get involved physically, you got to at least get involved financially. This takes money.
Right. There are people in that position, too. I know people personally.
Yeah.
They don't have time, but they contribute financially because they believe in the cause.
You've got a book. Are you selling that book?
Yes.
I'll put an ad. Do it quick. We only got a minute.
Okay.
How do they get your book?
Go to campconstitution.net, and there's a bookstore link there, and my book is available right there. It's Execute the Laws to Restore the Republic.
Okay. campconstitution.org, execute the law.
campconstitution.net, bookstore.
Oh, .net. Sorry about that. Okay.
Right.
Thanks for what you do, bud. Hang in there. We will talk more, I'm sure. We got to get the people engaged. I'm tired of doing this alone. It gets lonely out here in the drone zone. Be careful out there, folks. Thanks for supporting us, the ones that do. Thanks for praying for us, the others that do. We appreciate it very much. Don't forget, coming up the 1st of November is the pledge that you guys have said that you would help to support the radio station so we can pay that electric bill on the transmitter. If we could afford to boost the power a little bit, we would cover most of the northern Maine, but we just can't afford to run that transmitter at full power. If we had some more support, we could do that. It would be appreciated. And don't forget, support the folks that do support us. Countywide Vacuum, John Caven, sells a perfect vacuum, services the rest, John Caven. Takes a bag of bags off his bag of walls or wall of bags or whatever that thing is. He'll send vacuum cleaner bags any place in the country, not just in Aroostook County. Give him a call, 207-492-1492, 207-492-1492. If you're in Caribou, driving around, right there on Sweden Street, well, that's Variety, 24/7, 365. You never have to worry about being around the town, around in northern Maine without being able to get gas. 207, 24/7, 365. Well, that's Variety. Sweden Street in Caribou, right across from Caribou Performing Arts Center. And Natural Living Center, a great big health food store in Bangor. I get to hang out there and help folks make, hopefully, wiser decisions, wiser choices on supplements for their health and well-being. Right now, big deal. Fall coming up. Flu season coming up. Ebola. Get your vitamin D. Don't be without your vitamin D, your iodine, your selenium. Don't forget to get some vitamin D, folks. It's important. Give them a call, 207-990-2646. 207-990-2646. Natural Living Center, Bangor, Maine. That's it for today, folks. Have a great day. See you on the radio.
WXME AM 780, Monticello, Holton, Prescott.